My only personal outrage is when people are offering hard and fast opinions and they haven't even looked at the facts. They don't know what they're talking about.
I know you're going to talk to other people that have been abducted, and they're going to tell you about the fear. And the fear never goes away, ever. It will be with you till the day you die.
The leaders of this UFO abduction cult are lying to the public.
You could fake the story, but no, I don't think you can fake the trauma.
If this is true, it's the biggest event in human history.
All over the world, from the United States to the United Kingdom, from Australia to South America. As soon as darkness falls, a fear spreads, and it has a name: alien abductions. In 1991, in a poll carried out by researchers into this phenomenon, it was estimated that up to 5 million American citizens may have had an abduction experience. So are extraterrestrial beings abducting our citizens from remote forests like these, as well as from our own beds? Or does the answer lie a little closer to home?
This is Nick Pope of the Ministry of Defence. He says he's the only person in Britain to have officially investigated alien abductions. He's also published a book on the subject. He believes that there could be an extraterrestrial dimension to this phenomenon.
There are many different theories about what really lies behind the abduction account. At their most simple level, clearly there is strong evidence that we are dealing with an extraterrestrial civilization coming to Earth and simply carrying out some sort of procedure on people. But there are other options too. Some people talk about some sort of interdimensional element to this. Now, at first I thought that this sounded like science fiction, but when you look at some of the bizarre notions being discussed quite seriously now by physicists, particularly in the world of quantum mechanics, ideas of time travel and ideas of interdimensional beings perhaps don't seem as far-fetched as they might have done 5 or 10 years ago.
So is there any such thing as a typical alien abduction? Researchers say yes, there is. Dr. Susan Blackmore, psychologist and paranormal researcher, has reservations about an alien hand at work here. But like Nick Pope, she acknowledges that the accounts have several recurring themes.
If they see an alien, the alien tends to be about 4 foot high, big, dark, slanty, almond-shaped eyes, penetrating gaze.
A lot of people comment on the eyes and feel that they are the focus of the control that they're somehow being placed under. The account of somebody seeing a blue-white beam of light and sometimes being struck by it is something that I've come across again and again.
Usually the alien speaks to them without using any words. It's as though they're using telepathy or mind-to-mind communication of some kind. Then very often they're whisked away or zoomed down a tunnel or whatever and find themselves in a spacecraft.
Typically, an abductee will report a round white room with some sort of table or raised platform in the centre.
And have various operations done on them, as though the aliens are trying to find out things about them.
One of the things that they then were told by the entities was a rather bland statement: don't worry, you have nothing to fear. This will not hurt you. Very often, of course, that was totally at odds with what was happening.
The author, Whitley Strieber, has claimed strange and unexplained visitation since childhood. It was his bestseller Communion, written in 1987 and later turned into a Hollywood movie, that brought alien abductions to the forefront of the public's mind.
It sort of ruins your life. I mean, I was on December the 26th, 1985. I was in a cabin in upstate New York, and I woke up aware of the fact that there was something terribly wrong. saw these dreadful figures around me, little stocky figures that were dark blue, and a tall, willowy figure that had a big black eyes and a rather snout-like narrow face. I didn't think it was aliens. It never occurred to me at first. I kept trying to wake up again, and I couldn't because I was already awake, apparently. I had, among other things, a needle stuck into the side of my head. It made a flash behind my eyes, and I can remember saying, "You're going to ruin a beautiful mind." And, but they did it anyway. The next morning, I was in a state of panic, like a person who's been in an auto accident or been the victim of a dreadful crime. I was terribly confused and upset, and by the end of the day, my injuries were hurting. I didn't realize when I was writing about it what would happen after the book was published. I never would have written about it. It did ruin my life. I'm like a sort of a pariah. Socially, people are even embarrassed to go to dinner with me at night. There's something damned true here that's got to be gotten out to the public, because until it is gotten out, people are passive. They're helpless. They're sitting there just letting it happen to them and not knowing what it is. We can find out what it is. We do have the scientific tools to do it. We must cease to be passive about it and take an active interest in this.
Although he has no formal qualifications, Bud Hopkins has spent the last 20 years researching this phenomenon. After having investigated several hundred abduction cases, there's one in particular that remains the most compelling and intriguing, and it happened not in a remote forest, but only a few blocks away from his own home in Manhattan.
As far as I'm concerned, the most important abduction case that we have on record involved Linda Cortila, and this happened in 1989, November 30th, in New York City.
I don't expect people to believe it, and I'm not trying to convince anyone either. It's up to them, but I know what happened to me.
In this particular case, a UFO above an apartment building in New York City turned on all of its lights. It had been apparently unseeable until that point.
I felt a presence in the room, and I felt this numbness crawling up from my toes, up to my legs. And when I opened my eyes, there was this creature, this thing standing at the foot of my bed. It had large black eyes. It was sort of gray, and it didn't belong there. There was nothing that I could do but throw a big decorative pillow at this creature, and he fell back. I hit him.
A bluish-white beam of light came out of the bottom of the craft, and at that point, this woman, Linda Cortila, in a fetal position, and three small alien figures floated out of a 12-story window in full view of anyone around.
Right out this window, here. I felt as though I was on an invisible elevator going up and into this craft. I would have screamed my head off, but I couldn't.
Although there were no reports in the press or news media at the time of this alleged incident, Bud Hopkins claims that there were independent witnesses, both on the Brooklyn Bridge and on the nearby FDR